Hi, I'm Wes Allen with DM Tales, and today I'm excited because my print copies of Old School Essentials Advanced Fantasy came in the mail. I'm going to take a look. Let's roll it. I have been interested in Old School Essentials for a long time. I actually purchased the PDFs for Old School Essentials Advanced Fantasy off of DriveThruRPG back in the summertime. I was waiting for the print copies to come out, and I wasn't quite sure I was going to get them, but the renowned quality of Old School Essentials print editions and what they put into them really spoke to me. And so when they became available for a 2-day span, that's how fast this print run sold out, in September, I decided that I had to pick it up. One of the things that you'll notice right away is that Old School Essentials is in digest format. This is, I believe, A5 paper. The nice thing about the A sizes is that when you go up one, it halves the size. So a typical, what we would consider the equivalent of US letter in America, is A4 in places that use sane measurements, and A5 is the next size down. So what you would end up doing is you flip it and you get A4 size paper. So that is essentially what that is. It is a beautifully constructed book. These are going to last for a while. It is stitched binding, so these are sewn registers that are in there. There are 2 book ribbons in the book to mark your places, which is really nice. And the book has a good heft and weight to it. It feels very wonderful in the hands, and I very much appreciate it. Compared that in size then to my other print old school game, which is Basic Fantasy, which is US letter format, and you can see how much smaller it is. So this is easier to throw into a bag and carry around. Even though it's a very thick book, it is still relatively light to carry, even with the heft that it is. It feels rugged and solid, but it is not overbearing. And, you know, that's not to knock on Basic Fantasy with the larger format. It's going for a different feel. But what Old School Essentials has pulled off here is nothing short of amazing. And there's a reason why these books sell out so quick anytime they do a print run. I think Necrotic Gnome and Exalted Funeral are going to have to start raising their expectations of what they can sell of these books because they go out of print really, really quick. So let's take a look. I already opened this up, but one of the things that I really appreciate about the print copies, which I didn't notice when I was doing the PDF review, is that the opening cover has some key charts that are in them. That includes the character attack table, some requirements for races when they are rolling characters, and also level limits for different things. Over on the other inside flap, you have the saving throws for all the different character classes. I believe that these are the basic version of the classes. They don't use the optional rules for split race class on this, which is really cool. On the back, you have more charts, adventuring gear, weapons, including weight and cost, and you have the different costs and weight of armor classes. Old School Essentials can use both ascending and descending armor, which is really nice. I tend to like ascending armor class. It just makes more sense to me, and that's really nice for that. Also has stats for ranges on ranged weapons on the other inside flap, which is really cool. So having the books is almost like having a little bit of a GM screen with you. On the DM tome, or the referee's tome is what they're calling it, you have different things to do for adventuring rolls, retainer hiring reactions, so that you can actually, you know, just flip open and see, okay, it was a 6. This is what the result would typically be. Encumbrance rules, different rolls, and ways to keep track of turns inside dungeons and in wilderness. Very, very good. Oh, and the key, money conversion, which is something that always screws me up for some reason. Over on the back cover, you have the order for encounters, the sequence that you would go if you're using the standard rules, which is group initiative, and the combat sequence per round. Also, you have, because this is the referee's tome, you don't need player attack rolls, you need the monster attack rolls and the creature attack rolls. And again, you have both THAC0 and ascending AC rolls for your pluses on your attack modifiers, and all of your animal or creature saving throws. Very, very nicely done. The amount of information that Old School Essentials manages to put on those inside covers while not feeling cluttered is really impressive. They've truly knocked it out of the park. I mentioned in my long review of the actual game that there is a great deal of wonderful artwork in these books. That is absolutely true in the print copies as well, of course. The paper is a very good heft, nice weight to it, so you don't feel like you're going to tear it when you are turning. That is a wonderful, wonderful feeling. And it is not glossy, so it's flat paper. One of the things that I did not quite expect with that is when I'm looking at this on a PDF, and like a full 2-page spread on the PDF, the materials that was used to create this artwork feel a lot more glossy, almost like paint. In the print copies, they feel more like pencil drawings. That's not a knock, it's actually more perception. If this was glossy paper, because I'm looking at the PDF through glass, it gives that more glossy sheen, so there's a different feel to it. And I think that's indeed what's going on here on the print copy, is that my brain is expecting that sheen, because I first encountered this artwork in the PDF where it's a little bit of a more natural glossy finish. The fact that it feels more pencil-like does not take away from the artwork at all. It is still absolutely gorgeous. I love the green for the contrast and the alternating rows and all of the tables. And for the call-out text, it is easily readable and it translates into print from the PDF version beautifully. Absolutely fantastic. Also here for the first time in a print form, the joy of the 2-page spread for the character classes is really here on display. On the PDF version, I typically read it, one up, so it's only one page on the screen. I do have a couple readers where I can throw them side by side to get more of the natural feel, but it shrinks my experience of the pages because now you're cramming these 2 pages onto the iPad's 12.9-inch screen, and I don't quite get the same feel. Here in the print, this 2-page spread for all the character classes is absolutely just knocks it out of the park. Again, just as I said with my long form review, the amount of information that is crammed into these pages without feeling like it's crammed is simply phenomenal. The fact that they included saving throws in the character progression chart just makes things so much easier to look up. Looking at the referee's tome, again, very similar. Same construction. There are some great essays at the beginning of the book on how to use the material and how to run a game and how to create an adventuring environment, which is all really, really helpful. And the artwork is absolutely stunning. There's no other way you can describe it. It's beautiful. Same green alternating row color in all of the tables that make things so easy to track across. So you know what you're looking at. You don't skip rows as much, which is very, very helpful. And the monster descriptions, this is one thing I might knock a little bit. It's because of the digest format, things are so much smaller that it's more compact. It is offset, however, by the bullet points underneath that describe what the monster does. This is presented beautifully. There's no fluff. You just have the information that you need. So it's a very minor miss for me. I have asked several of my friends which one they like, and a number of them have said that they prefer this to, say, let's open up Old School or Basic Fantasy. A number of my friends prefer the Old School Essentials layout of monsters rather than, say, the Basic Fantasy version of monsters, which is more of a table to come down. I prefer this, but it does take up much more room, and the information isn't all there because you have to actually go look up Fighter 4 for your saving throws instead of having the number in with the monster description. So Old School Essentials has made a design choice that some people are really going to like, some people are going to be indifferent to, and some people will be mildly unhappy with. And I can't even really put myself into mildly unhappy. It's just the design choice that they made, and it works. Again, beautiful artwork. Here's the 2 ribbons that are sewn into the back. This is a stitched binding book, as I mentioned, so when you break the binding in a little bit, it will absolutely lay flat, which is so helpful and beautiful. I am running a Basic Fantasy table right now. But at some point in the future, I'm probably going to try folks out with the Old School Essentials Advanced Fantasy. There's just certain things about it which are so nice. I love the way that they brought in the feel of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons while keeping the mechanics of Moldvay Cook. I love the presentation and the artwork. I have 2 licenses for the PDF, so I don't have a problem having a table copy for folks to look up. And there is a free PDF of basic rules that people can download for free. Right now, unfortunately, you cannot buy these print books. As I mentioned earlier in this description, these books sold out in 2 whole days. That was how long they were for sale for. I believe that you can buy the classic fantasy tome right now. That's $40. These are each $40 a piece when they are on sale. And from that, you can actually pick up the supplements that would get you the equivalent of what's in these 2 books for $15 a piece. I believe that that's Monsters and Treasures, Advanced Fantasy, and Druid and Illusion of Spells are the 3 that you really need to get the equivalent of what's in these 2 books. But it's much more economic to go this way. Even with the books out of stock right now, you can still buy the PDFs on Drive-Thru RPG. Each of them are $15. I struggled with actually diving in and getting the PDFs originally because when you buy the print copies, you get the PDFs automatically. And if they do updates, if they change and make corrections or additions, those PDFs are updated. But last I checked, the Drive-Thru RPG PDFs were not updated. I haven't really found any glaring errors or omissions, so I'm not too worried about that. But if it's something that you are concerned about, it might be something worth waiting for. I do know that Exalted Funeral has said that they are working on getting a second print of these books up as soon as they can. So hopefully within the next month or so, these books will go on sale again, or at least before Christmas, because I believe they're going to be very hot sellers. If you're interested in having anything that feels like old school D&D, that is mechanically 100% compatible with the Moldvay Cook versions of Basic and Expert, and able to have some of the feel of Advanced D&D without any of the rule glut that Advanced D&D brought with it, along with the faster mechanics of Basic, this is the system you want to use. Again, I love Basic Fantasy RPG. That is what I'm currently running right now. It's really good, especially because it's a free buy-in. But what Necrotic Gnome, what Exalted Funeral have done with Old School Essentials in creating these 2 books is nothing short of magnificent. These books are beautiful, and if you can get a copy and you are a collector of tabletop role-playing games at all, this is something you want. Next week, I am going to be taking a look at my first pickup of a print-on-demand copy from Drive-Thru RPG. It is Mutant Future, which is a retro clone that has the feel of first edition Gamma World, but uses the mechanics of old school Moldvay Cook, Basic and Expert. Until then, happy playing, everyone.